Hello, everyone. Chris Pennimpede here, President and CEO of Canterra Minerals. This is a presentation to accompany our 2024 Q1 corporate update news release that was released this morning. And I'm going to take you through how 2023 ended for Canterra and what we're going to be doing on the exploration front in 2024. Let's get started. So the end of 2023 saw us close the Buckins Resource transaction, where we acquired Buckins Resources VMS deposits in the central Newfoundland critical minerals belt to add to our existing resource stage projects. And principal among those was the project you see in the background of the title slide here, the Buckins project, encompassing the former Buckins mine, that ASARCO mine, for 50 years. And it has a current resource on it of 16 million tons at around a 4% zinc equivalent. And so it's the largest VMS deposit that's known in the district at this time. But what this transaction did do is it transformed Canterra into Newfoundland's largest critical minerals explorer, on the island at least. And so we have 7 resource stage projects now, and almost 24 million tons under management. And we tripled our resource base, gave us more exposure to copper, and fortified our technical team as we acquired Buckins VPX and exploration manager, and gained a director nominee from Buckins. On the back of that transaction, we raised $1.53 million to close out 2023. And now we're ready to go drilling on our projects here in Q1 of 2024. So we're going to get into where we'll be drilling and what our goals with drilling our high-grade zinc and copper projects are going to be. If I haven't already, I'm probably going to make forward-looking statements and disclosures throughout the course of this transaction. So I encourage you to read this on our website. So the updated team, post-transaction, I am still CEO and director, but we've added Paul Moore, our Vice President of Exploration. He has over 30 years experience in Eastern Canada and across the world when he worked for Teck and Anglo. But more importantly for us, he's been working at least the last 15 years in the central Newfoundland critical minerals VMS belt, and has a wealth of experience and knowledge of the deposits in the belt and the geology, more importantly. We also added David Butler, an exploration manager with 30 years experience, again, predominantly in VMS, Newfoundland-based geo, but has experience sort of across Canada. So we've become more Newfoundland-centric, as we had already sort of trended that way with the earlier addition of Nick Coleman, a Newfoundland banker. We also added Michael Power as a director. He has over 50 years experience in the mining industry and sits on Buckins Resources board, so he is their nominee. The rest of the team remains unchanged and ready to attack our 7 deposits in central Newfoundland going forward. Jumping into the capital structure, this has changed dramatically since acquiring Buckins Newfoundland's assets. So we have 148 million shares outstanding. Of those shares, if you look at the pie chart, effectively, the result is Buckins shareholders own 60% of the company, and Canterra shareholders own 40% of the company. Buckins Resources Limited, the actual corporate company, has 14% of our common outstanding, and these have resale restrictions, 2-year resale restriction period, and 4 months and a day that goes along with any transaction on the venture. Insiders, we own 5, Sprott has 9, Michael Gentili has 8, RCF has 4%, and the rest is made up of retail Buckins shareholders, retail Canterra shareholders, a few funds, and mostly high net worth folks that are friends of Gentili, Sprott, or management. So that in turn gives us a market capitalization today of around 12 million. So if we look at the end result of what this transaction did on just a by the numbers resource base, we tripled our total resources, and most of these deposits are zinc and copper heavy, and so we basically tripled our exposure to contain zinc and copper. And the breakdown of all of our deposits under management is in the table here below. And so the Lundberg, which is the Buckins project, the Lundberg deposit within the Buckins project, is very large, but is low grade. And so it doesn't quite make it at these metal prices. So it runs about a 4% zinc equivalent across its 16 million tons. Our existing deposits under management you can see they have a very high dollar per ton value, and that's because they're very high grade when you combine zinc, copper, and gold. And what we'll be talking about a lot today is the Lamarchant deposit, the highest grade, one of the highest grade of our existing projects under management. And we're going to be drilling that early here in Q1. Stacking us up against other critical minerals explorer, and more specifically VMS focused explorers and developers. You can see this is a bit stale dated now. We're about a 12 million market cap, but even when this was done just early in the new year, we were 16 million, and so our nearest peers you can see here. All right, jumping into the central Newfoundland district. And our claims are in blue, and so this is the resulting property position with the deposits or the resources and their deposits defined by tonnage and primary commodity. And so I guess the update to start off the description here in central Newfoundland is Calibre has acquired Marathon and their 5 million ounces here in gold, and continues to develop the Valentine Lake project as they're pre-stripping, I believe, and working towards mining. So that's good for central Newfoundland. We already had power and roads. There's an additional transmission line now from the end of Beothic Lake here over to Valentine Lake, but more infrastructure. And Millertown is a busy place now with shift change and equipment laydowns and everything that goes into getting a mine up and running. But our projects are in blue. And so before the transaction, we had Lamarchant, we had Wilding on the gold side and Noah Paul on the gold side, Long Lake, Boomerang, and Talks East. So we've added Bobby's Pond, Daniel's Pond, and Talks Hill, which complements our Boomerang and Talks East project. We also have expanded Lamarchant as Buckins had a lot of mineral claims around our Lamarchant deposit. So that's useful for future exploration. And of course, we acquired the Buckins project here north of Beothic Lake. And so the Buckins mine was a proper tier 1 mine, 16 million tons, operated at a 25% zinc equivalent head grade. So world-class deposit, no question about it. And 50-year mine life from the 20s through the 70s, eventually closing in 1984, and really sporadic exploration ever since. But supportive community here in central Newfoundland, because they have this long mining history with Buckins, and then later Hex Duck Pond mine, another VMS mine in the belt here. This was in the mid-2000s and closed in 2015. And so there's skilled workforce, supportive stakeholders throughout central Newfoundland here that want to see another discovery and ultimately another mine go ahead. So it's a great place to work, the best place to work I've found in Canada. And because of all the infrastructure, some of the cheapest drill costs on a per meter basis you'll see, aside from right being in Val-d'Or, Quebec. But you're down around $275 a meter, all in. It was $200 before inflation, now it's crept up again. Moving on to Lamarchant, and so this will be the focus of our first drill campaign for 2024. And as I said, we raised 1.53 million right at the end of 2023, so we are fully funded for the Lamarchant drill program, all 2,000 meters, and we will set out drilling at some point here in mid to late February. So stay tuned for a news release for when we actually get drilling. So the knock on the Lamarchant deposit is it's half the size of Teck's Duck Pond deposit that they mined at around 3 million tons. It has better gold grade than most of the VMS deposits, whether it be Duck Pond or Buckins in this VMS belt. And that's what really set it apart when we went to acquire it back in 2021, is it's high grade, just like Duck Pond was. And so the grade works, and you just need more tonnage. That's easier said than done, but we need to make more discoveries at that sort of grade, which the Lamarchant project seems to be able to produce. We just need to find more tonnage. And so that's really what this drill program is all about, is finding more tons to get it from 3 million to 5 million tons, the size of Duck Pond. And I really think that's what's required to have another massive sulfide mine go ahead here in central Newfoundland. All right, jumping down into the actual targets themselves. So we've identified 4 main focuses for the drill program coming up here shortly in February. And the first will be drilling within the resource area to move some of the inferred to indicated, and also to fill in some gaps in the resource where we think we could easily add incrementally to the resource base. And certainly the numbers produced from this deposit are quite spectacular by any standard, very high grade. And so we're excited to go in and hopefully through infill and converting inferred to indicated, continue to hit these types of Lamarchant grades going forward here with this upcoming drill program. We're also going to be targeting an expansion in the up dip direction of the deposit that hasn't previously been tested, but we did an IP survey back in 2022 that suggested that there might be an extension to the deposit in the up dip direction at 2 here, And then number one's where we have an IP anomaly, and the new 3D model geology, which is done for the first time in the project's history, incorporating all the historic works and geophysical surveys, indicates that there might be a massive sulfide at depth here, 200 meters down, to yield a new massive sulfide discovery, which would be huge in getting to our goal of increasing tonnage. At 3, we think this is the best opportunity for a new massive sulfide discovery. We have multiple data sets indicating that a massive sulfide body might be buried here underneath the cover. From the IP, model geology, and some nearby drill holes, all sort of infer that that there might be a chance to hit massive sulfide down here and make a new massive sulfide discovery. 4 is a real wildcat idea. Only 2 weights of evidence here giving credence to this target. And so we'll see how the drilling goes at these other targets before determining whether we go out here and drill at 4. But likely this needs another layer of data to increase our confidence there. So that's the drill program at Lamarchant, 2,000 meters or 2,200 meters. And look for that to start in late February and probably go until mid to late March. All right, moving along into the Buckins project. So this was the prize. This is why we did the acquisition, is it's a license to go tier 1 deposit hunting. Buckins was a tier 1 deposit. And so the idea or the thesis here is that there is more of the Buckins high-grade mineralization to be found here, and you could easily have a path towards, you know, another 5 million ton ore body within the brownfield site. So this was an underground mine. You can see the head frame here. This pit was an open pit mining. The underground workings collapsed way back when, and as slowly sort of backfilled with water. The Newfoundland government is responsible and takes a liability for the entire brownfield site, and so as an explorer, we are exempt from the brownfields disturbance. Okay, so again, we were just talking about Lamarchant. We're going to move north of Beothic Lake now to the town of Buckins and the Buckins project, which I just showed you a picture of. And so this is the resource that exists. So I talked about this in the opening slide. This is how the resource is modeled: 16 million tons, low grade zinc equivalent. And so the challenge or the opportunity here is to find more high grade and or expand the known low grade here to the southwest as the deposit is open in that direction at depth. But why we acquired it was there was some hits from the Buckin team here at a target called 2 level, which yielded high grade classical Buckins type grades. So it was almost 15% combined base metals with the breakdown you see there. And so just 1 million tons at these sorts of grades would fundamentally change the economics behind this large low-grade resource, making it very viable. And so that's the immediate opportunity, is to find, you know, 1 million tons of the high-grade Buckins ore that made it such a famous mine. And this is just above the existing low-grade mineralization. But the implication of the 2-level discovery went beyond that. And that's because in this typical VMS model I'm displaying here. The implication of that two-level discovery was it was actually in transported material, and that describes it had obviously been in a debris flow, and transported down slope from where it originated from. And so in this model, the Lucky Strike mine, which was one of the major high-grade ore bodies that was historically mined, accounted for 48% of all the ore mined at the Buckins mine, or at least the in situ black smoker on the base of the seafloor was most of the ore mine, but the other 52% of the ore mine was in a transported ore class. And these were black smoker vents that failed downslope. They failed and were redeposited downslope. And we know this because at 2-level and other areas on the Buckins project, when you drill into like a mixture of materials, the matrix is mudstone and other things, and then you get class of the black smoker. So just black pure metal class, basically, within that debris flow transported material that's been redeposited. And so 52% of the ore mine contributed to or was this transported ore type, and the grades were almost as spectacular as the in situ. So this is a valid target. And so the 2-level discovery meant that, okay, there's more transported ore to be found in the failure slopes of the known in situ deposits, but also it was far enough away that in the down plunge direction from Lucky Strike that it implies that there might be another in situ source that would have been feeding that transported debris flow deposit. And so both targets are valid here, and that's why we acquired it, because we saw this opportunity, and this wasn't our idea. Buckins Resources had this idea, and it was the base case for an investment or working arrangement with Boliden, the giant Swedish VMS miner, and they're sort of VMS mining experts with the Boliden mine in Sweden deal with exactly this scenario. And they came in here and weren't that interested in the low-grade Lundberg resource, but when they saw 2-level and saw the transported ore, light bulb moment for them is they could explore the rest of the project with that 2-level idea in finding new in situ deposits within the property boundaries. And so Boliden ultimately couldn't come to an agreement with former management on a JV structure, but technically liked the target, permitted drill targets, came up with a new model, spent $1 million bringing in over 50 years of data, and for the first time modeling it in 3Ds, and permitted the holes, and then walked away from the deal. And so Canterra is going to pick up where they left off and test these ideas in trying to find both new transported mineralization types, expanding in the northwest from 2-level, basically working that trend in where we think the depositional track would have been. And then also drilling at depth around the McLean, where you see additional transported mineralization deposited, suggesting there's an in situ, another in situ source somewhere nearby. So we're going to take that model and run with it, and it hopes to make a new major discovery of high-grade VMS mineralization within the Buckins project. And so the opportunities, we just touched on 2-level and also McLean a little bit, but there's also a similar setting at Buckins North, Sandfill, and Clementine, and others across the project. So it's a big project. with lots of potential to make a new high-grade discovery, analogous to what Buckins was originally known for. Very high-grade ore types. And how we're going to do that? Ultimately through drilling, but first step is big data crunching. And Boliden did a lot of this and spent $1 million. Newfoundland, the government has preserved all the drill core and has Boliden relogged 200,000 meters. And this is ultimately a great basis to start from and is a huge value add for Canterra moving forward. So we'll continue to crunch this data and ultimately moving into the timelines and catalysts. In Q4, we're going to start drilling, having completed already a gravity survey at Long Lake, one of the other deposits we have under management that has exploration potential. So having done that, we're now looking towards drilling at Le Marchant, 2,500 meters, 2,000 to 2,500 meters, depending on what we hit and where. And then look for results come March and into April. From there, we'll evaluate the targets at Buckins and look to drill at Buckins in the summer to early fall of 2024. All right, that's your update. Keep your eyes peeled for news flow concerning Le Marchant drilling and news flow from our other VMS projects in the central Newfoundland critical minerals belt.